What's up, headbangers? Welcome to another episode of the Talk Louder podcast, where we geek out on all things rock and roll. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Leave us your likes and comments. You can also leave likes and comments on our Facebook page. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Instagram, and at our website, talklouderpodcast.com. I'm Metal Dave, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, and today's guest is joining us all the way from Poland. We are excited to have Bart Gabriel with us today, who is a big mover and shaker in the underground metal scene. Jason, you want to
Yeah,
talk about his resume a little bit?
well, you could go to bartgabriel.com, which we will mention again in the episode. He's basically a music manager, production manager. He remastered the latest reissue of The Gods Made War by Militia.
Yes.
He has worked with Juggernaut, San Antonio Slayer. Those are the Texas bands that he's had a hand in doing things for. But there is a slew of bands that he's worked for and done things. A lot of it is underground heavy metal. He is a heavy metal enthusiast. Him being in Poland, he has definitely made his mark and does things for, works for, very involved in all of the European heavy metal festivals.
Right.
A big one would be the original festival, Keep It True Festival, which is based on traditional heavy metal, classic power metal, and things like that. His wife, Marta Gabriel, fronts the band Crystal Viper. Of course, they are on his roster. He has worked with a lot of the new wave British heavy metal bands you may have heard of, Tygers of Pan Tang, Satan, a lot of American bands, Jag Panzer, and so forth. And I've known about Bart for years and we've known about each other for years and years, but only officially met a couple of years ago at the Keep It True Festival when I was over there with South Texas Legion. Now, the cool thing is he's just like we are. He is a heavy metal enthusiast. He is a great guest for shows like this. And I'm not trying to call him out, but when I first approached Bart about being on the show, he wondered why he's like, well, which band do you want to interview? And I was like, no, I want to interview you. And he couldn't understand it at first.
Yeah.
Of course, and then once he realized, he was like, oh, okay, wow, that's kind of cool, because I just think that putting people like him in a spotlight is because there's no agenda or anything. It's just a conversation, and it's just, I want people to hear about this regular guy who just loves what he loves and created a way for him to be involved with the things that he's passionate about, that he can, help promote a band or manage a band and help the band do. Because not everybody in a band, let's say you write great songs, but you don't know what to do with them.
Right.
You don't know, you don't know anything about pre-production. You don't know anything about management. You don't know about how to get your band on a label, or how to get paid at a gig, or much less get involved with playing any sort of touring or even a European heavy metal festival. Well, Bart Gabriel knows all of that stuff.
Yeah.
He's been involved since he was a young kid, starting with fanzines and then writing for different heavy metal magazines over in Europe. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our friend to the Talk Louder podcast, Mr. Bart Gabriel. Bart, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, of course, of course. So we've been talking about you behind your back for some time now.
Oh,
yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, here's. I'll just be honest. You and I have known of each other for many, many years, of course.
That's correct.
And we have been a little bit in touch for years, is correct.
Yeah.
And there are reasons why. You are, especially nowadays, and maybe in recent, just the past few years, you have a management company. You have you do mastering. You have done reissues for classic heavy metal bands, new wave of British heavy metal bands. You have quite a nice roster that includes, people that you've worked with San Antonio Slayer and Militia, which is right here in our backyard.
Yeah.
And that's enough of a reason right there for us to want to
Yeah.
give you a big hug. But all of the other things like Satan and Panzer and Tygers of Pan Tang and a lot of new wave of British heavy metal bands that basically a lot of people grew up listening to, that are big, the reasons why, dumbasses like me and Dave have a show so we can nerd out on this kind of stuff, and you are a perfect guest. So thanks again for having me. So I'll get the ball rolling. Where are you from? Where are you calling from right now?
From Poland, from the southern part of Poland, close to the border with Czech Republic.
Okay.
Wow. So it's nighttime over there.
Well, almost it's 8 p.m., so it's not really nighttime yet, but it's like that.
Well, I just had lunch.
Dinner time.
So.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we just ate
anything good?
lunch. So
Nothing. No.
No.
nothing to speak of.
Some cold leftover pizza. Nothing to.
Oh,
nothing to brag.
That's
about.
not good.
So you being in Poland, is it your hometown? Did you grow up?
Actually, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
So growing up there, tell us what got you into extreme music, heavy metal, hard rock. Tell us how that a young Bart Gabriel discovers. I don't know what you discovered. Tell us about your first hard rock heavy metal band and what got you kind of going.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't call the bands I was growing up with extreme metal, because I was growing up with all the classic stuff like Maiden, Priest, Black Sabbath, Tin Lizzy, Scorpions, and of course the new wave of British heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
And the very beginnings, I would say it was around 89, 90, something like that, because I'm 41 right now. So I was the kid, and I was discovering bands in our local music store, because I've seen all those great album covers with monsters of them. I was a nerd that was into, computer games, into horror movies, horror books. So when I saw all those cool monsters on the covers, I said, okay, this is heavy metal. This looks really cool. Except that I was really deeply involved in all those heroic fantasy stuff and books and movies like, Conan the Barbarian, books of Robert Howard, of Michael Moorcock, and so on. So it all simply clicked, because, you have fantasy, you have swords, dragons, half-naked chicks, of course, and all that classic stuff. And it was going hand in hand with heavy metal. So this is probably why it started. How it started, I just, first of all, my dad was very much into music. He always had huge record collection with all these 70s, 80s stuff like Pink Floyd, like Queen, and stuff like that. So less or more, this is what I was listening to when I was a kid, without choosing what I wanted to listen. But then I discovered my own bands. I mentioned like Priest, Maiden, Accept, Manowar, for example, Tin Lizzy, and Merciful Fate, King Diamond, all that stuff. So this is how it started.
Yeah, I want to chime in and say I like how you sort of circled it all under a classic, the name classic. if you had to put anything that you just mentioned from your father's, what sounds like an excellent record collection, all the way to Merciful Fate. When you think about the nucleus or most of the bands that you mentioned for the time, and even if you went back to someone who's a little older, such as me and Dave, that is extreme. That is the harder music. That is the darker music, and it's themed still.
I will interrupt you. I know
Okay.
what you mean, because even back then over here in Poland, it wasn't really shared into, black metal, death metal, thrash metal. We all were listening to metal. It was heavy metal. You were I don't know, wearing a denim jacket with Slayer patches on it, Possessed and stuff like that. It was all heavy metal to us.
Yes.
So the same with the term power metal. When people nowadays say power metal, they think about, I don't know, Blind Guardian, Halloween, Gamma Ray, or something like that. For me, power metal is Savatage, it's Malice, it's Leash Lord, and I don't know, Riot, for example. This is my power metal. So this is a little bit different right now. When you will tell someone that you're into extreme metal, then what kind of bands they are thinking of about? I don't know, Cannibal Corpse, D-Side, or black metal stuff. But back then, everything was metal, everything was heavy metal.
Yes, and I really like that you used the word classic, because all of that's kind of still coming from one place, and it's blues-based rock music. And until they started putting everything into little boxes, even over in America, everything was just rock and roll, and/or then everything was heavy metal. Soon as that term started to gain foot, right? So that term heavy metal didn't really, I feel, grow legs, as some say, in America until the late 70s or even early 80s. I mean, when they were playing Crazy Train on the radio in 80 or 81 or whatever that was, they still weren't, the radio wasn't, all right, time for some heavy metal. They weren't saying that. It wasn't really a household term as of yet. So it was still rock and roll, even by the early 80s in some markets in America. Let's keep going. Dave, did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask. So Bart, you were exposed to this type of music as a kid, and you're obviously very passionate about it. But how did you then take that passion for this type of music and turn it into a business? Tell us how you sort of launched the business side of what you do.
Very good.
Well, obviously, it took a couple of years because
Sure.
I had to finish school and stuff like that. But actually, in my case, it was like that when I was like 14 or 15, I learned what the term fanzine means. That you can run a magazine, but it doesn't need to be super professional and all. And like that. So I started doing a fanzine with my brother. Later, couple of years later, I actually joined Polish Metal Hammer magazine. I was 90 years old when I started to work professionally as a music journalist. I was working for Metal Hammer magazine. I was working for them for like 2 years. Then I was arranging all my interviews myself. I was passionate about it. I was contacting bands. I was writing to labels and all that stuff. So I got my name going around pretty quickly. So after 2 years in Metal Hammer magazine, I actually started to work as a freelance journalist for magazines from Japan, from Holland, from Greece, from Germany, for example. So I was working as a freelancer for all those magazines. And at the same time, I was discovering a lot of great bands that, to say so, didn't really have so much luck, or better, weren't running things like they should run. So I said, okay, perhaps this is something for me. And less or more at the same time, when I was doing my first fanzine and so on, I was at a Motorhead live show. It was 1997, I think. Yeah, most probably it was Motorhead show, and I somehow got backstage. And of course, there was the band, the gear, and all that stuff. But there was one guy over there who was telling all the other people what to do. You go there, you do this, you do that. And I said, okay, so someone is running all that circus. I want to be that guy in the future. So actually, that's funny story. But I can say that in my case, professionally, everything started from the Motorhead live show, because this is what I decided. Okay, this is what I want to do with my life. This is my world. This is my cup of tea. I want to do that for my life. Yeah.
Wow.
So you saw the stage manager. You
I
saw.
think so. It
Yeah.
was either tour manager or stage manager.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, usually someone who's calling the shots sort of like on a stage, it's making sure the crew is getting everything ready. Yeah, tour manager, production manager,
Or
stage
some
manager.
random asshole that just wanted to feel good. So you never know.
Yeah, that's usually me when I go to a show. I'm back there
Yeah.
telling everybody what to do, but nobody listens to
Back there
me.
throwing rocks at people. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So you got you launched your company in I think your website said 97.
Yeah,
And
this is the official start. Yeah.
yeah, so you get started in 1997, and how many bands are on your roster? Because I was scrolling through, and I had to take a break and come back because you've got a lot of bands on your roster. How many do you work with now, or have you?
Actually, when it comes to management, I have right now only 5 bands, so it's not that much. But you probably saw so many names, because I often work with bands on managing some project. For example, the band needs help with managing the press promotion, or they need help with promotion of the new album. They need help with producing the new album and finding a label. So it's not that I'm someone's manager for, I don't know, like 5 or 10 years. I help them with the stuff they need at the moment. So this is one thing. And this list that probably you are mentioning with so many events, this is probably the discography, because
Right.
At the same time when I started to work as a manager, and when I launched my promo agency and management agency, I started to work as a record producer. So yeah, it would be few bands on this list.
A lot of the bands mentioned on the roster very well could be, or and you can correct me if I'm wrong, directly involved with some of the tribute albums that you have put together and compiled and released on your label.
I mean, both yes and no, because I didn't do that many tribute albums, just 5, like 6. And when it comes to bands I work with as a producer, or where I was responsible as a for the mastering of the album, it's more than 200 albums right now. So yeah, those are a little bit different numbers. The truth is, when it comes to tribute albums, it's usually younger bands I work with. And when it comes to remastering and reissuing someone's material, then it's usually older bands, the bands from the 80s.
What are the 5 bands that you're managing currently?
It's Crystal Viper from Poland. It's Hex from the United States. It's Heavy Load from Sweden. I'm kind of helping them with press promotion, so it's not really that exclusive management. And sometimes I'm working with 2 Japanese bands. It's Metal Lucifer and Sabbath. I'm also helping guys from Twisted Tower Dire from the United States. And a couple of days ago, we actually didn't announce it yet, I think. No, we didn't. We also signed a deal with Medieval Steel, with another American heavy metal band.
Very good. Now, for someone who may or may not know, and unfortunately, a lot of people, including myself, may not know material by these bands. A lot of these bands I've heard the names of before, but haven't like researched them or sought them out for whatever reason. What is the so that sort of array or rainbow of bands that you're currently seeing after things for one way or another, are they? Would you say that they're more power metal than they are extreme? What kind of songs are these?
Traditional heavy metal, classic heavy metal.
Correct. Okay, cool. I feel like that's a focus for you, or do you feel like you're drawn to a traditional like bands that would play Keep It True?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah,
thought. I didn't want to assume
yeah.
anything because I sort of
No,
go ahead.
the thing is, I'm a fan. I mean, I'm the enthusiast of the entire heavy metal culture. For me, it's way more than just a music. This is, the brotherhood, bands, music, meetings, festivals. There's so much going on around heavy metal, and I love. I can list bands from probably every metal genre that I really like. But the truth is, I started with traditional heavy metal. I started with classic heavy metal. So this genre, the very traditional heavy metal, has very special place in my heart, to say. So this is my music. This is where I belong. This is where I feel the best. So this is probably the reason why most of what I do is somehow connected with traditional heavy metal, with classic heavy metal.
I'm gonna get off course here just for it's not even really off course, but why do you feel? Because I've always thought I've always let me start with this. I've always felt like in Germany, seemingly especially, but in Europe, just to generalize a little bit, I feel like the culture, the heavy metal culture, is more vibrant and active, and the fans seem to be to the death. I feel like the term battle jacket, the vest with all the
Yeah, yeah,
patches,
yeah.
and people just see the back of someone's jacket at one of these shows, and they're learning about heavy metal. Oh, I need to get that patch, or oh, I need to look that band up, or what are these guys all about? I feel like this conversation starter by going by. Let's talk about the battle jacket for a second. When you think about it, and I learned this years after the fact, I just thought it was a cool, thing to wear to the show to look at my jacket. I'm cool, right? But it's more than that. It's more than a conversation starter. It is your umbrella, it's your pillow, it's your blanket, it's your tent, it's your car, it's your Winnebago, it really is not just a badge of honor or badges of honor. It is your where you've been and where you're going as a fan for life. And I feel like in America, heavy metal fans or self-proclaimed heavy metal fans don't necessarily have that giant of a metal heart for what it is that we're talking about. Why do you personally feel like Europe is so infatuated with the idea of just heavy metal and festivals and the lifestyle
Uh,
compared to
I
America? Compared to America.
it's hard for me to compare it to America, because I've never been to the States. I know a lot of great bands. I know a lot of great people from the States, but I've never been there, so I can't really compare. But I would say it's not exactly as you said, because I know a lot of fantastic people that probably don't have even one T-shirt with metal band. They look totally random. You would never say that a guy that you just passed on the street is a diehard metal fan, but you might be surprised how big is his record collection. So it's not always like that. It's not that all the people like to wear T-shirts and patches and battle vests and so on. But when it comes to festivals, especially the Keep It True you mentioned, it's less or more like a huge family.
Yes.
It's this brotherhood, and when people go there, it's sometimes fun, because sometimes it's not even exactly about the music, but it's about the entire experience, about being there, about being between people like you, between people who think similar way to you, and it's something like I would compare it to a situation when I was in a high school. I had just one or two friends who were into metal, and we didn't really care about the others, about the outside world, because we had our own world, our own things to discuss. We were going to live shows together and so on. And in case of Keep It True or similar traditional heavy metal festivals in Europe, you have all those single guys, all those high school guys like me. They just meet in one place, so it's like a mecca, for heavy metal fans from all over the world. That they all meet in one place. So you might have this idea that why it's so big in Europe, but you don't have all those guys. You won't meet them on the street on a regular day or something like that. They're not wearing battle jackets.
No.
It's hard to recognize who really is a metal fan and who isn't. But in case of Keep It True, everyone is super proud about it. Want to show, his T-shirt or patches or something like that, because it's like coming home for all those guys.
So the way you're describing, and I've never actually realized or thought of it this way, I can only say I've been to Keep It True the one time. I was scheduled to be there twice, but in a short story, it was Watchtower, and Alan took my place. So I'm not bitter or anything, but I feel it's a wonderful feeling to just be able to be there. But I want to use the word convention. This fits what you're describing.
Yeah.
Where it's
exactly.
a big family, it's a convention, and like you go every year, no matter what. And that's sort of the mindset of the family that attends.
Yeah, it's like Christmas, Halloween, and your birthday party all at the same time.
Yes, and that just sounds so incredible for a heavy metal fan, even for a first timer or just even someone off the street, like a regular person just wandering into it, like, these people are happy. These
exactly.
Exactly. These people are in their moment. This is and someone just off the street would probably learn a lot and probably be welcome. In fact, I know they would be welcomed by anyone there, because it's such an element of you know what it is? It's love. I agree. Love.
Absolutely.
It's love. 100% love.
Yeah.
To backpedal a little bit and to say that America doesn't have that mindset, believe me, and you've got two Americans in this room with you that are you can tell that our room probably looks like your house. The room
exactly.
That we're in looks like it's
I don't want to touch my camera right now, but something like that is right here, yes. Right behind me. So yeah.
So this is happening globally.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the reason why there's a Talk Louder podcast, because we wear it on our sleeve. This is a place for nerds, for rock and roll and heavy metal nerds to come and hear people such as yourself talk about what's going on and why they are and how they've made it work for them without in their own way. And I think that it's perceived that Europe, in general, has more of that fanaticism, but it's just more spread out in America, I guess. To backpedal a little bit.
Yeah, but one thing probably worth mentioning here is one more thing about Keep It True. It's a German festival. It's happening in Germany. But you can hear all the languages over there. You have there people from the States, from America, from New Zealand, from Australia, from all over Eastern Europe, from absolutely everywhere. So it's not only about Germany. It is
Mexico, really South America. Yes,
exactly. Yeah. There are no borders, no skin colors there. No religions. We're just all happy heavy metal family over there.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience. I feel like the other festivals over there are feeling the same way, but I feel like you've given me even more insight on Keep It True. It being very traditional, focus on
the truth is Keep It True was the first one. Keep It True is the oldest from those. From those, traditional heavy metal festivals. All the other festivals were trying to either copy Keep It True or were inspired by Keep It True. So Keep It True is the one that started all of it.
Interesting. So Wacken and Bang Your Head, for instance, those are open air festivals that are after.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you on both Wacken Open Air and Bang Your Head Festival, you have all kind of bands: black metal, death metal, gothic, and you name it. In case of Keep It True, this is, as the name says, only this true traditional classic metal.
Yes. Yeah, very clear.
Bart, when I was scrolling through your roster of bands that you've worked with, obviously being from Texas, I saw a few names that I recognized, and I wanted to ask you, for our listeners, you've worked with Militia, Juggernaut, SA Slayer, and I wanted to ask you, is there something about Texas metal bands? Do they have a common characteristic that appeals to you, or was it just sort of some random coincidence that you ended up working with those particular bands?
I mean, that's an interesting question, because there is probably this kind of common element when it comes to Texas metal. Probably there's something in water over there, or something like that. But in this particular case, it was like, okay, I want to work with another band from Texas. I try to work with the bands I like. I try to rediscover bands from the past and bring them to people, to share their music with the people, because in my case, this is the most important thing when I work with bands. It's not about making money or about, I don't know, getting more popular, because let's face it, bands like Militia or Juggernaut, well, I would love to say something else, but they're not Metallica, they're not Maiden or Priest, so they are, of course, the underground heavy metal heroes. So I respect that, I love it, and I want to work with bands like that. I want to help bands like that, and yeah, so that's probably a coincidence that I was working with three bands from Texas so far.
Well, you had a hand in this
Oh yeah,
magnificent record right here, Militia's and the Gods Made War, and you basically remastered this album. Is that correct?
it's not.
It's not. Okay. What was your involvement? What was your involvement with this record?
Well, I was in touch with Mike Solis, with the singer from Militia, and we started talking about reissuing the old Militia material. So first we started with reissuing the compilation album with all their demos, the first EP, and all those raid tracks. And from one word to another, I was aware that they have this self-released album from like 10 or 12 years ago. I'm not exactly sure when it came out, something like 2001, 2002, something like that. But it didn't sound very, very well. But we started to talk about it, and Mike told me that he actually has all the tracks from this, all the studio tracks, or the reels, or the separate instruments, from this recording session. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. Send them to me, and we will see what we can do about it. And what I did with one of the sound engineers, mixing engineers I usually work with, we completely remixed this album. We had access to all the original takes, all the takes that didn't land on the first version of this album. So it was completely remixed. We used some different takes. We put this album brick by brick from the beginning with totally different mindset. And when it was mixed, then I was doing the mastering of this new material. So this is why we wanted to give it new album artwork. We wanted to give it new title, because the previous version can be considered to be a demo of this album you were holding in your hands. Right. So it's not actually only remastered; it's actually going back one step, more, and doing brand new mix, doing brand new production, and then doing new mastering of this material.
Whatever you did to it is. It sounds great.
It's a favorite of ours now, and I think that just using the word rejuvenation, it doesn't even begin to say what you and your company have done to these songs. I want to show off a feather in my cap by way of it's no secret that me and Mike Solis are. He's my best friend for over 40 years plus, and it's kind of interesting to be able to say I was there when they were making that new Militia record, and I wanted the best for this. You know, it was all original guys, and then it didn't work out that Phil Lachey could play drums, the original drummer, so Mike did all the drums. No surprise to me. It's a big surprise to a lot of people because they don't realize Mike Solis is a very efficient heavy metal drummer. So my point was, when I heard what they were what they were calling a final release, I was concerned that it didn't sound much better, and I'm using your words now, a demo for And the Gods Made War. And I wanted them to, earlier on, I was like saying, you know, I feel like you guys should go over to Stuart, Laurence, you know, the Bat Lord from Igniter, and at least record the drums over there, and then do your tracking, maybe. You know, they didn't have a lot of money, as you know, and they were literally making the record by the seat of their pants. They didn't have money to spend as a group, as a band, to get it even a little more of a money sound, you know, to have the, you know. So if people would go and listen to the record before, and what you and your company has done with this, it's night and day. Yet it's the same, I'll just say, it's the same shit. It's just been completely coddled and pet and reworked from the ground up, and watered like a plant, and really given focus.
Well, it's all about the songs, because it wasn't me playing there. It wasn't me, you know, singing. We weren't replacing everything. We just took the same material, the same rough tracks as they were, and we were simply doing our best. But the songs were there. It's all about. It's always about the songs. It's always about the music.
Yeah,
you got that right.
Great
the songs were there. I just felt like, as Mike's friend, I'm going, you know, what chalice do I drink from? Who do I worship? Who do I pray to make this get off the ground and have a little bit of a better sound? Because the songs were there, because it sounded like Militia, because I feel like Jesse Villegas's guitar riffs are the sound of that old Militia, that old thrash metal, that old sound that I feel like Dave was asking you, is there something in particular in a sound that is involved when you listen to a Texas metal band, especially back then? Yeah. Is there something special about it? In my opinion, for Militia, it's Jesse's guitar riffs.
Yeah.
Not to throw shade on anyone else in Militia, but Jesse's, you know, his riffs are something that remind me of, I don't know, early Merciful Fate, and they're mixed with Megadeth, kind of a Dave Mustaine kind of a thing. I really feel like there was something there. Anyway, you are correct. The songs are all there. Let me ask you about your wife. How did you guys meet? Was it at one of her band's shows, or please elaborate?
And we should tell people that Bart's wife is in a band called Crystal Viper, correct? And
That's correct, yeah.
She fronts the band, lead vocals, and plays some guitar. And I saw she's credited as playing some bass on some of the recordings. So just wanted to throw the band name out there so we know who we're talking about. But yeah, back to Jason's question, Bart. Tell us how you met your wife and how you became involved in that band and how you guys got started together.
My wife is a singer, a vocalist, guitarist in Crystal Viper, and it's actually a funny story because we can see that Crystal Viper is like a child of us, because I met Marta at a local live show. She was fronting some local rock band, and I was managing another band at that time, and I offered them an opening slot to be a support act for the band that I was managing at the time. And then we started to meet often. We started dating. A couple of months later, some things weren't going as they should go with her band, and she decided to leave that band. And we sat down, we started to talk about it, and we said, okay, look, you are a vocalist, you are musicians, you write songs. I manage bands, I produce bands, I have my own agency. Let's join forces. Let's see how it goes. So actually, this was the beginning of Crystal Viper. I was helping her from the very beginning to complete the lineup. That I came up with the idea of using the name Crystal Viper because this name was showing up here and there. We wanted to launch some kind of project for it, so we said, okay, if Marta is going to launch some project with other guys, with new guys, let's name it Crystal Viper, and we will see how it will go. And after a couple of years, after trying playing with some other local musicians, by something like, I think it was late 2016 when the first official lineup of Crystal Viper got crystallized, to say so. And yeah, this is how it started. The first lineup was the one that recorded the debut album. And when they recorded the debut album, we signed a deal with a label from Germany, a small label called Cartago Records. And actually, I was there when things started. When Marta was, playing with those local guys from here. We were trying to find the right musicians that could complete Crystal Viper lineup. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I wasn't familiar with the band until we knew we were going to have you as a guest, so I did a little research, and I was surprised actually how long the band has been around. There's a number of albums out and a lot of videos on YouTube. So anyone that's listening to this show, I would encourage you to look up Crystal Viper, see what you think, because I was pretty impressed, and I was surprised that the band has been around for so long, and I hadn't heard of it. So
yeah, we are old.
Well, you're not as old as me, so or Jason. So
I want to throw this out. When I say Savage Master, what do you think of? What do you think of? Savage Master.
Yeah, I know who are they.
Yeah.
This is the band I was working with a couple of years ago. We can say that I discovered them because someone sent me their demo. I signed them to my label, Skull Records.
They are, to be clear, let's backpedal a little bit. This band is from Lexington, Kentucky.
From Louisville.
Louisville, Kentucky. Thank you.
Yeah, Louisville.
Thank you for clearing that out. Okay, so how did you come about a demo or?
That's a pretty long connection.
Yeah. Tell us exactly the play-by-play within maybe 5 minutes how that kind of worked, because you took them from Louisville, Kentucky, America, and made them almost a household name in the underground heavy metal scene in just a couple of years. Tell us how that went. This is a great story. I feel like going to be anyway, that tells everyone what Bart does.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if this is really that original story, because it's happening all the time. It's happening with many different bands, with different people. In this case, it was the regular situation that I simply heard the demo. I liked that. I contacted the band. I said, hey, I have this record label. I kind of specialize in traditional metal, classic heavy metal. This is what I could do for you. This is what I offer. And from one word to another, we signed a deal. I released their first album, then the EP, then the single, then the next album. I brought them to Europe for the tour because I saw what is going on. The band is really good. They are serious about what they are doing. So I said, okay, well, let's try to push things harder. And I was managing Savage Master for some time. I brought them to Europe. I organized the first European tour. It was shorter. I think it was 8 or 9 shows, something like that. But it was quite successful. And yeah.
Wow. So tell us also about your work with Night Demon, because that's another pretty long connection, I think. How did you come upon them?
There actually was no regular, connection between me and Night Demon. We are friends. We're friends with Jarvis because he was playing at the Keep It True festival, and I'm usually at Keep It True festival, helping with bands, taking care of hosting the bands, helping them with some stuff over there. So this is how we met, and we had some common friends in. I'm sure you're familiar with a band called Cirith Ungol.
Yes.
Jarvis was a diehard fan of Cirith Ungol, and so was I. So this is probably this common platform for us to connect. And of course, few years later, Jarvis became the bassist for Cirith Ungol. He brought them back for good, and I was more involved with Cirith Ungol than with Night Demon. My only connection with Night Demon as with the band was that I was doing mastering of one of their CDs, and actually that's it. But in case of Cirith Ungol, I was my relationship with Cirith Ungol goes back to the 90s, because I was writing letters with members of the band. I was doing a website for them many years ago. Then when they returned, I was asked to do mastering of the reissue of their album of Paradise Lost that was released by Metal Blade Records. I think like 2 or 3 years ago, I was asked to restore and to remaster their very first recordings from the 70s. So yeah, there's a bigger connection with Cirith Ungol than with Night Demon. Don't get me wrong, Night Demon is absolutely great band. I love them. I'm their fan and everything else. But to be exact, I wasn't really working that much with Night Demon.
I want to go back briefly to what Jason was talking about earlier with Savage Master. As a metal fan here in America, who sort of pays attention to what's going on in the scene and in the underground, I got to say, Savage Master came on my radar a couple years ago, and the profile has only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So whatever you're doing with them, and as you say,
I'm not doing anything because we are not working together for like 3 or 4 years already.
Oh, okay. Well, you laid the groundwork then for whatever success. And
we were working together around the time they were doing first 2 studio albums. After we split, they did one more studio album, as far as I know. But yeah, we're not working together anymore.
Okay, all right.
Well,
let me ask you, as a producer, as someone who produces and masters, and basically does a lot of studio work behind the scenes with these various bands. Is there a producer out there that you look up to, that you sort of admire? Because we've had episodes on the Talk Louder podcast where we did a whole episode on Martin Birch. We often talk about Bob Ezrin on this show. We've talked about Jack Douglas. Are there any producers or engineers or people behind the scenes that you sort of would try to model yourself after?
Yes, actually there was, because Chris is no longer with us. But if I would need to list only one name, it would be Chris Tsangaridis. He was producing Judas Priest, Thin Lizzy, Black Sabbath, Tygers of Pan Tang, Rock Goddess, and you name it. And I had this luck to know Chris. Actually, we were joking. We had this inside joke going that I was calling him my Jedi Master, because he was obviously like 25 years older than me or something like that. But he actually learned me a lot. He never had a problem with telling me his secrets, his methods. We met a couple of times. I was, when I had some problem with some recording session, I stuck on something and I couldn't do. I was catching myself that I was, okay, what Chris would do in this case, how he would resolve the situation. So yeah, Chris was my Jedi Master, the number one producer when it comes to all my work ethic, my work methods and style. Of course, I will never be that cool as Chris, but I'm doing my best. I'm trying.
Wow. Well, that's a great role model because his resume
Yeah.
speaks volumes. I mean, wow, he's done a lot of incredible work. So, yeah, just curious. I wanted to know because a lot of the times, the people that we have on the show are actual musicians and they obviously have their influences, but somebody like
Hmm.
you who works behind the scenes, we're not always privy to what might be your inspiration.
Hmm.
So let me ask you this then, as somebody who's primarily a traditional heavy metal guy, is there anything in that record collection behind you or that CD collection behind you that we would be surprised to find? Do you listen to other genres of music besides metal?
Well, you wouldn't be really surprised by looking by this between the CDs or the vinyls that are around me because I keep all my heavy metal in this room. But actually, I have another record collection with all the extra stuff, and I'm sure you would be surprised by finding a lot of non-metal stuff because I'm not probably even able to list all the other genres I like to listen to, be it blues from the 20s, 30s, be it classic rock, pop, be it movie soundtracks, classical music. Yeah, really, really a lot of stuff.
I think
I,
that's
I
some,
was I was I was listening to Robert Johnson this morning, the Delta Blues collection. So
yeah, yeah.
that speaks for itself.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
I
there's
think
a,
that's something that the three of us probably share in common. I think anybody that's passionate about music is usually passionate about music at large. Obviously, you have a particular preference, but it's been my experience that someone like Jason or myself, and now you, even though we kind of have a primary focus on things that are hard rock, heavy metal, we all have an appreciation for other genres of music too, and you can often find some of that stuff in our collection.
I think that
Absolutely.
I think that headbangers, just to give us a name here, have those guilty pleasures to use what I've called recall David Metal Dave using in the past. Guilty pleasures being other kinds of music. You know, most people who think about they see or find out you like heavy music, they don't think that you like jazz or pop music or
Right.
like that you don't listen to Devo and the Cars or
Yeah.
something or Leonard Skinner
Or the
or
Bee
something.
Or
Gees.
Dire Straits.
Yeah,
Dire Straits.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Great band.
Which is this far away from Thin Lizzy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Yeah, they don't. I say they like they're outcasts, and they're not. I just feel like there's a lot to learn about heavy metal culture and the enthusiasts within. Back to Robert Johnson for a second. Maybe you know this. I don't know if you're an archivist or know a lot of the. If you're a buff, know a lot about Robert Johnson. There's a rumor that he recorded a lot of his songs in a hotel room in San Antonio.
I didn't know that.
Not far, about an hour from where me and Dave are.
That's cool.
Dave's from San Antonio, but I feel like there's a legendary story, and forgive me, I don't know the lore or the truth behind what actually went down, but supposedly there is downtown San Antonio. There's a bunch of hotels, and an old hotel there, and somebody took Robert Johnson down to San Antonio and put him in a room and gave him, this is where it gets a little, weird, but supposedly they did something like they gave him $100 and a new pair of shoes and a bottle of whiskey, and they had a reel-to-reel recorder, and they pressed record, and they said, play everything you know. And they gave him, a pair of shoes, $100 and a bottle of whiskey and a pack of smokes. Press record, said play everything.
That's amazing.
You know. and he did in a hotel room in San Antonio. It just sounds legend. It's a legendary story that I've been hearing off and on for years. And what brought it to my attention, which I'm really not that shocked or surprised when I actually heard it, was that John Cougar Mellencamp, who's from Indiana, and he's a blues buff. He knows everything about blues. He recorded an album for the most part live. The tracks are recorded live in the same hotel room. Like he sought out the exact hotel room that Robert Johnson recorded all these songs, and he brought in mics and a recorder and set up in this tiny little hotel room and recorded everybody. And I think you can see they filmed some of it. There might even
That's
be
amazing.
a documentary about it, about John Mellencamp making a record live, recording the tracks live in the same room that Robert Johnson recorded, like what could have been 30 songs.
Yeah, you know who's going to know this is our friend Frankie Nowhere, because he is way into this type of music, and he would know that. And when he hears this episode, we'll ask him. We'll ask him right now. Leave a comment and let us know.
In the comments, people feel free to put whatever historical value and knowledge you have on the things that you hear, and correct us if I'm wrong. I'm used to being wrong.
I've heard
being wrong
that story. I've heard that story before. I think there is some truth to the fact that Robert Johnson did some recording in a San Antonio hotel room. And I want to say, now I might be going out on a limb here, but I want to say that Dave Grohl might have told that story in one of his many film projects or documentaries or something like that. And that I could be off base there, but I have heard that story before about Robert Johnson in the San Antonio hotel room. So
it was the John Cougar Mellencamp story that brought it to my attention. I have to be honest, because he was telling the story about how the reason why I'm going down to San Antonio to make a record in this little crappy hotel room. Yeah, it's because Robert Johnson's ghost is living in there, and I want to go there.
Yeah.
So there's probably places as you well know, in New Orleans and Chicago, where streets where gangsters were shot down, where all of this legendary American folklore will inspire an artist to be creative somehow. And I think that's amazing. So,
Bart,
not to get off topic, but you said Robert Johnson, and every time someone brings up Robert Johnson, I want to talk about that story because
if you don't mind, I would like to add something over here, because we're talking about Robert Johnson. This is this mind-blowing fact that I keep on reminding myself from time to time. For my heroes, for the bands from the 80s, Priest, Maiden, and all those classic heavy metal bands, guys like Robert Johnson and the blues artists from the 30s, 40s, they were 40 years behind them. Right now, we're in 2021, so there is the same time difference between us and the 80s. So when guys in the 80s were talking about Robert Johnson and artists from the 40s or 30s, it's like the new guys right now who are into heavy metal are talking about Judas Priest or Iron Maiden, because this is 40 years, and it was 40 years. It's mind blowing actually. So because.
It's kind of frightening, actually, because it makes me realize how old I am.
It's crazy.
I absolutely love it, and I think that it goes to show, how passionate we are and what we have the seeds that were planted in our hearts and in our minds when we were young people listening to music, and the fact that we're on the edge of our seat, getting excited to just even tell. Yeah. As we say in America sometimes, campfire stories, where we're just having a round table, right, where we're talking about all of this really cool stuff that's very tangible, that's very, I feel like I can hold it in my hand. It is so real. And there's of course there's holes in every legendary story. We don't know if if Robert Johnson got $100, a pair of shoes, and a bottle of whiskey.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? But it sounds cool, and
great.
It adds to the story, and it makes it tangible. It makes it real, and it makes you think about the reason Robert Johnson thought it was a good idea to follow this white man down to San Antonio and record everything. And I think that the white man that did that owned a radio station and stole all of his music and exploited his music. And here we are talking about it. That's the sad part. But if it wasn't for Robert Johnson, there would be no rock and roll.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's
This is where it's all coming from. The rock, the metal. This is if we want it or not, or if some people want it or not. This is where it all started.
Yeah.
This is the true roots.
Yeah, the minor scale, the guitar riff made up of the minor scale, the minor chords. Yeah, you could go on all day about that. Bart, who are you currently working on right now? Which one of your artists are you in the studio with anyone? Are you pushing one of your artists, and who are they? What's going on with you right now?
Well, first of all, I'm these days I am mostly working on the next releases on my two record labels. So because we have new releases coming out on both Skull Records and on Iron Oxide Records, except that we're doing new recordings with Crystal Viper because we are preparing something extra. We have this recording session. Actually, we're in the middle of our recording session because we're supposed to finish this week. Probably we won't, but we were supposed to. So, yeah, I'm mainly focused on the stuff from my labels and on Crystal Viper. I'm also preparing next tribute album because this is something you were mentioning before. It took a while, and I wasn't doing any tribute album, so it's about time to do another one. I'm almost finishing this project as well. A few weeks ago, I finished new album, producing and then mastering new album for the American band called Firewolf. This is really a really good classic heavy metal sounding, power metal sounding band.
What are they called again? Firewolf?
Firewolf, yes.
Like wolf, like a dog, like wolf,
Yeah.
Firewolf. Okay, just to be clear, that's a cool band name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like an Indian name, like a native Indian thing or something. I am.
Yeah,
Firewolf.
well, they have wolves on the cover artwork, so probably this is where it's coming from.
Very
yeah,
good.
this is a really cool sounding album. I think you might enjoy it if you like stuff like Q5, like I don't know, Queensryche, Lizzie Borden, Malice. This is down that alley.
Yeah, melodic metal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
American metal.
Yes.
I wish I wish you luck with Crystal Viper because I feel like what I heard and saw on the videos when I was listening last night, to me that's a band that has a lot of potential for an American audience because I'm listening to it and I think about all the European bands that gained an audience in America. You know, the Judas Priest, the Scorpions, the Iron Maidens, the Saxon bands like that, and I hear elements of that in Crystal Viper. And so I know in this day and age with money and logistics and everything, it can be very difficult to get a band to gain exposure in another country. But I think if the opportunity was there for American ears to hear this band, I think there would be some potential because I've seen it happen before with other bands, and I think they have those similar elements.
I agree 100%. I think that the material that I've heard, to piggyback on Dave, it seems like, and also the visual, Marta is just cool looking. She's a pretty lady. She's obviously very talented singer, guitar player, songwriter.
And the videos are well done too.
Yep,
yes.
That triple guitar attack every once in a while, I think, is also a thing. And I think that the funny thing is I've replaced two female singers in two different bands, and I still feel like, as far as heavy metal goes, there's not enough still female fronted heavy metal bands, if not all female heavy metal bands. So the fact that it's a full package, I think that there's something very cool about, girl power. But even set that aside, I feel like if you're a good heavy metal band, you're a good heavy metal band. I don't care if it's dogs and cats on stage playing it. I feel like Crystal Viper is a full package.
Yeah, it goes back to what Bart was saying earlier. It starts and ends with the songs, and Crystal
Yeah,
Viper, in my opinion, has the songs.
yeah,
The
yeah. I
rest of
agree.
it is icing on the cake, but they definitely have the songs that would appeal to American fans that fell in love with Judas Priest and Scorpions and that sort of thing.
Right. To piggyback again, I think that since they did not recreate the wheel, the fact that it has these elements and these things that we all love as heavy metal fans, that's another reason that it's poised for something more.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
we wish you and Marta luck on Crystal Viper for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
I have one last question for Bart. I wanted to ask him, considering what you do, again, going back to the producing and the mixing and the mastering and all that stuff, what band is out there that you would just kill to work for or work with?
Or there are many.
Give me
It
three.
would
Give me three.
no, it would be quite easy. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and Metallica.
Okay.
Of course.
Fair enough. Yeah, that'll do it. That sounds like a wish list.
Yeah, I believe you suppose I will tell some obscure bands you never heard about.
I thought there might be one in there that I might be surprised by, but yeah, those three, it's pretty hard. It's like if you asked me what band would I want to, roadie for.
No, to be totally honest, it's not like that. I'm choosing better bands or worse bands to work with. I always have this kind of enthusiasm within me, and I try, to discover something in all the bands I work with. So, of course, I mentioned some of the biggest bands because who wouldn't like to work with the biggest bands? But I enjoy it exactly the same if it's huge band with 10 albums, or if it's young band doing their first album. I have the same energy, I have the same passion for it.
Yes.
It's all about the music, about sharing music with the people.
That's why you're good at what you do.
I agree 100%.
Right there.
Yeah.
Just
Thank
nailed
you.
it.
Yeah. Hey, Bart. This will be our final words. Let me be the first to tell you again. Thank you very much for hanging out with us today on the Talk Louder podcast and giving us some insight as a fan, all the way up to as a music producer, management company, etc. Before I hand it off to Dave, I would like to make sure that you can answer me now, and just for the record, your website address and social media tags where people could look you up and find out and listen to some of your artists.
Yeah, it would be probably the best to go simply to bartgabriel.com, because this is the central point for all the stuff that I do. So this would be probably the most important page.
And there's a bunch of different links there for them to.
Yeah.
There's a store.
I mean, I'm not that important, but it has links to all the bands I work with. So this is probably more important than me.
Right. No, that's fine. That's fine. Dave, what you got?
Nothing. I just want to echo what Jason said. Bart, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure. I learned so much in the last 24 hours just researching you and your wife and your business and what you do. And as a metal fan, I love people like you who are in the trenches, making it happen, and pushing the genre and the music that we love in ways that a lot of people don't have the talent to do it, but it needs to be done. So thank you for being
well. Actually, someone has to, and let me add that this is exactly what you just said. It was one of these driving forces why I do what I do, because there are so many great bands out there. There are so many talented people, so many amazing musicians out there, but there are just few people who know what to do with them. So yeah,
right.
This is what I do. What I do instead, of trying to play myself to start a band or something like that. I prefer to work with bands, to push them whenever I can. And this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, thank you for what you do. We appreciate it. And with that, I'm Metal Dave Glessner signing off on another episode of the Talk Louder podcast on behalf of my co-host Jason McMaster and our very special guest all the way from Poland today, Bart Gabriel. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much.